more delay to this. Let's see where my... Oh, all right. Maybe we'll pull back on the feedback a little bit. Let's see. I can darken up. I don't need it so bright. What's going on? Hey, Holly. Good morning. Let's see. Let me turn that off and see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and keep the windows smaller. Hopefully it doesn't mess too many people up. I could move some stuff around for the short term and maybe make this window a little bigger. I don't know if you need to see more of me. My hair's a mess. Got a haircut, but you'd never know it. Yeah, I think I've gotten more gray since we started doing these live streams at the beginning of COVID. Hey, Bob, what's going on? We're going to talk about soloing. I feel like this is too far over. I'm going to move that there. Okay. I need to make it a little smaller because I'm going to need that room. Get my money back from the haircut. I'm not in that key. Hey, 6'9". Martian Murray, good morning. Just going to kind of hang out for a minute and let people get on. And then we'll start talking about soloing. Let's see. You know what? Yeah, I did upload a while ago, right? I uploaded. I can upload this new progression. The hilarious thing is I'll probably get a copyright strike against it or something. It's just 4 chords. Interesting. I got a letter from Universal Music Group, who's my publisher. Well, I don't want to say they're my publisher. They're my publisher. I'm my publisher. They're my administration for my publishing. And actually got a couple emails. One was telling me why they were taking all their music off of TikTok. And they represent, I think Universal, according to Rick Beato, represents about 32% of artists, released music or whatever. And keep in mind, Universal, that could go all the way back to like Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra and stuff like that. So, because I don't care how big you are as an artist or a writer, you're still going to have a publishing administrator, because while performance royalties, which are revenue from songs playing on TV and on the radio and on YouTube and in movies and things like that, that net from all over the world automatically comes to you. Mechanical royalties, which are sales, which sounds like, well, that doesn't exist anymore. Well, that's not true, because Spotify, like every 87 spins constitutes one sale. For example, 9.1 cents is generated for the copyright holders, the writer and the publisher. And so if you wrote it and published it, you get all 9 cents. Every 87 spins, or maybe it's 127 spins. It's some weird number like that. I don't know that it's particularly arbitrary. They probably did some math to calculate it. And when you think about it, you go, wow, that's not very good. Like 9 cents for 100 spins. That's not very good. What if you sold 100 records? Yeah, if you sold 100 records, it would be, what would that be? $9 in royalties. If you sold 145s, is that right? $9, yeah. So let's say they were going for 99 cents. So that would generate 99 cents for the store. The store typically takes 40%. So that leaves $60 for the label and to distribute to everybody, okay, on 145s. Well, I know for a fact that my little sister would wear out 45s. So she would listen to it far more than 87 or 127 times. I wanted to kill her sometimes. I was guilty of that too. My sister, literally, I had a copy of Tommy Rose Dizzy, and I played that so much my sister threw it down the stairs and shattered it. My older sister did. So if you think about it, once you buy it, there's no more money to be had. Once I got my 9 cents from somebody buying a CD, they can listen to it as many times as they want. It's theirs, which I kind of like owning things. I don't like renting. I like owning. But, like software, I hate when you have to rent software. You can't just buy it and use it. You have to rent it. And so, but that's kind of almost more the royalty model. If you're renting it, then somebody's potentially, the company in most cases, is getting the monthly income from it. So, so that was one letter I got saying that they were going to take all their music off of TikTok. And the reason why, again, according to Rick Beato, in fact, according to the email, was that what TikTok was doing was making a lot of music available. Fine, we don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with AI generated music because it's created by computers. So that's fine, whatever. Okay. But what they were doing was they were claiming they were the copyright holders and they were diluting. So in other words, if there were 100 million spins a week and they were claiming that 50 million spins were AI and they get the royalty from it. Now, instead of all the record companies, all the publishing companies splitting the royalties for 100 million spins that week, they're only splitting 50 million. So I don't know if Universal is going to be the only company. Maybe the other companies are like, yeah, we're going to stay out of this fray. That way everybody will use our music more. Beato thinks that it won't last very long because Universal needs places like TikTok to promote their music. A lot of their artists get sales from that. And I suppose that's true. I imagine at some point there's going to be a new TikTok. Every one of these platforms kind of goes through their heyday and then it starts to taper off. And I'm not sure what TikTok's strategy is to kind of keep them on top. I know people are hardly on Facebook anymore, or young people in particular. Even Instagram has kind of had to adopt the TikTok model in a lot of ways. If I look at my royalty statements, let's see, where would I see that? Let me, I don't want to share the numbers obviously, but let me see if I have any money from TikTok. And it would, if I do, it'll be literally pennies. Because not many of my songs get spun on TikTok. Let's see, I have to go here. I'll just look at my most recent writer's statement. I have it on my laptop, but I don't usually download it to my studio computer. Laptop is kind of the more business type computer. Oh, no, that's canceled. It's so funny. I can't look at my catalog anymore because I have too many songs. And so it's just too many. They won't list them. I have to literally enter the name or the co-writer or something like that to see it. Just because I'm always writing stuff and then for TV and they're registering it, and whether it gets used or not, that's up to them. Okay, so I'm just going to do a search here. So my royalty statement was $7 million. I'm just kidding. You're like, wait, what? Yeah, if it were that, I probably wouldn't be doing YouTube. All right, let's see. Let me see if I can find Tick. Found on one page. Okay, where are you? Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so I have. Where is it? Must be further down this page. TikTok. Okay, so I have 3 songs that are getting used on TikTok. ETA from Justin. Okay, that makes sense. That's this one. That Gold, which is a song I did with the Beat Freaks in London years ago. And I thought it was actually, the song got really popular at first. Florida artist, kind of a rapper dude, not a rapper, but just kind of an R&B guy, kind of blue-eyed soul thing. And then Treading Water, which is, Treading Water is, shoot, what's Treading Water? Who is that? Oh, that's, I can't think of the name of the group. Sorry. Thank you, Holly. Holly's taking care of all the paperwork here, all the official stuff. So my grand total for TikTok for the quarter, this is a quarter, 24 cents. Uh-oh. No, it's green. Huh. It says not receiving enough video to maintain. Did it drop? I didn't notice. So I've gotten a total of 24 cents from TikTok. Let's see. From Facebook, I got $11, which isn't bad. Let's see. Amazing Grace. What was? Well, I mean, now I did Amazing Grace first. So they're airing episodes of. Or how is that getting on Facebook? That's interesting. I mean, it's all fascinating to me how money is generated, and I love how it just automatically kind of finds you because your name's attached to it. But I did an arrangement of Amazing Grace for an episode of The Mentalist. Well, it was public domain, and they gave me writers, and I'm like, technically I was a ranger, and it should be a smaller royalty, but they just didn't do that. They just wrote down Tom was the writer. so I got some royalties for Amazing Grace. Looks like $1 from Facebook for this quarter. Crybaby, which actually that was $2.79, so almost $3 for Crybaby, which is a song I wrote with Kelly Jekyll for a movie. Well, we wrote it and it got in a movie on Netflix called Walk Ride Rodeo, and it actually is kind of in the most touching moment of the movie, and about a girl that gets paralyzed and she rides horses and she gets back on the horse basically. I don't remember. She got paralyzed in a car accident. ETA again. Home to Mama. Looks like 54 cents. 94 cents. I can't see. And this is just from Facebook, which really don't expect any money from Facebook, to be honest. Let's see. Oh, no, 94 cents. See, I just got my eyes checked, but these numbers are really small. Treading Water generated $4, which is interesting. I mean, ETA only generated $1.80 on Facebook. So $4.27 for Treading Water, which is Said the Sky is the name of the group. It's actually a really, really nice song. I did a video on how I wrote it. And then they built a song around that hook. Yeah, like I said, Pandora. I got 14,000 spins of ETA on Pandora Standard, and I paid 66 cents. And again, that's just performance royalty. That's not mechanical. Mechanical comes from that'll come from my association with Universal Music Group. So if there's a mechanical royalty on the spins, then I get a percentage of ETA. I didn't write it all. I was just one of the writers. Yeah, so that, Pandora, a little bit of money, Pandora Plus, a little bit of money. I didn't even think Pandora was still a thing. So yeah, so these all just kind of slowly. It's just a numbers game. Um, here I've got like, you know, 14 cents from Uruguay. It's just like all the countries all send me a little bit of money. Some of them send pretty decent amounts. Canada, decent amount from television. Oh, because I have a lot of TV shows, music on TV shows. Um, Street Outlaws is kind of my big show. It's where I have most of my music, and that one is, I think, canceled. It'll continue to air probably until they run out of episodes, and they'll probably continue to air. But apparently, the new head of Discovery is not a fan of car shows, so so there goes that money. So all right, now well, I want to talk about how many people do we have? We're kind of low here, probably because I'm not playing or talking about guitar so much. But I didn't know if you'd find that interesting at all. Oh, the first CD you bought was a rave. Well, who was it? Do you remember the artist? And let's see. Yes. Yeah, school books went back to renting. Yeah, I hated that too. Or you have them on your laptop and then they only last the year or whatever. It's like one of the things. Yeah, my son Jack kept some of his school books. I'm not sure, like you could probably keep it, but there's probably $100 penalty or more for keeping it. I mean, because his textbooks were expensive. We would always buy them used, and then return them if you didn't need them. So we'd pay $70 for a used textbook, and then we'd get $20 for it at the end of the year. So we just you got to be frugal. You got to do what you can. Sorry, let me click on this so I know what's going on here. Okay, Tom, the lower notes were blowing out a little bit. Oh, okay, thank you. Well, there you go. I took off the EQ because it sounds lame in here. And I can turn down overall level too, but thank you, Holly. All right. So we're going to talk about soloing. I've got just basically the first 4 bars of Let It Be, because Let It Be goes, and then it goes to this. We're not going to do that. We're just going to loop the first 4 bars. So it's going to be C, G, A minor, F. Which is a very common progression, chord progression in pop. And if you look at the scale, I have a two octave scale written there: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. And so you can see what number would correlate. So if we want to use the Nashville numbering system, this C, G, A minor, F progression would be a 1, 5, 6, 4 progression. Okay, because you look at this, C is the first note, G is the 5th note, A is the 6th note, and F is the 4th note, and that's how the numbers come about. And then we're gonna go ahead and fill in what the notes are in these triads. Okay, so you know that, because that's going to be part of our study. Now, there's so many approaches to soloing, so many different ways to get there. And to think about soloing. You can think about each individual chord. You can think about the overarching chord, the key. You can think about it in the key in diatonic terms. You can think about it in pentatonic terms. You can think melodically. And so, those are some of the main ways that you would maybe approach. And over a jazz progression, if it's that's it. You might go more over, that actually all is in one key. Most of that is anyway. We're basically in the key of D flat major, sorry. Until we get to there. And then we're in the key of C. So we're in D flat. So you know, for the first 5 chords, you could just be in D flat and just kind of noodle around in D flat. And then when it gets to the last, you go into the key of C. Now, most jazz players don't think that way, or they kind of do maybe. I remember seeing books where they would analyze songs and it would bracket and say, this is in D flat, and this is in C. And so I guess some players think that way. Maybe a lot of them do, but I think more players think melodically, or maybe think of the chords. They just memorize the tunes. And I think with like jazz, the first thing you want to do is learn the melody, and then you can use the melody to kind of create a counter melody or a theme and variations thing, and come up with more interesting solos than just noodling in D flat for 5 chords, and then for whatever that would be, 2 beats, 5 bars. And then 3 bars of the key of C. See, I don't know if that's the best way to go. You can, if you're flustered and you're lost or you don't know what to do. I mean, I know when bass players get lost in jazz tunes, they just start playing chromatic lines, until they find where they are, and then they get back to it. That's an old trick. So the progression I have here is. Sounds like Let It Be, right? Hopefully we're not going to get a copyright thing here, but okay. So for one thing, this progression is in the key of C. So a C scale would totally work on this. Every note in the C scale that you see down there technically would be in the key. Now there might be moments where where it's like that C note over the G might not be the best thing to. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again because I think it's a really good ear exercise. It's a really good rule to kind of follow when you're just kind of noodling and looking around. If you're in a key like this, if you're in one key and a note isn't working, go down a fret or up a fret, and 99% of the time those 2 notes will work. So for example, over the see that B works better over the G chord than it does than the C does. Or I could go up to the next note in the scale. Okay. So that's a trick you can use as you learn your scales. I'm just playing noodling in the key of C. And that gives you every note that you'll ever need to create all of these chords. So let's create these chords so we can see what notes are in the chords and where maybe notes will rub wrong. Okay, and the C chord, the F might rub wrong. Like it's a little bit weird. And we've talked about this before. I remember teaching on this, where we would play one note over a progression and go, where does it sound good and where does it not sound good? We've talked about this before. So now, is Bruce okay? I don't see Bruce up here yet. Or did I just miss him? And you probably told me, Bruce is on the road right now or something like that, but I didn't see it. My first record was the Beatles' Help. It was a bit of a disappointment. I didn't realize it was going to be half score. And also the other problem was that they embedded the score between the songs. Instead of just making one side the songs and one side the score, they kind of did it both ways. And I was young. I mean, it was in. I was in. I was in. Where was I? Was that Philadelphia? No, I was in I was in Potomac, Maryland at that point. So I think I moved. I was under 9. I was pretty young. I saved up a long time. Bruce is on the loose. Okay, now so the way you create triads is you just take this scale here that you have right here. Boop, see the scale? And whatever the name of the chord is, like C, G, A minor, F, you just start on that letter and you skip every other letter till you get to total to 3 letters, and that's the triad. It's really kind of that simple. Let me edit this. Let's see. Okay. So if we look at C, we have C, duh, okay? And then you skip D, and the next one is E, and then you skip F, and you go to G, and there's your C triad right there. Those are the notes in a C chord, okay? And it helps to have the scale written out right in front of you, okay? Now, G, and notice that's why I wrote out 2 octaves. Because if I only wrote out 1 octave, it might make it a little difficult for you to see the notes in the G chord, for example. Because you have G, sure, great, okay. And then up a third, so skip A, go to B, up another third. Well, if we stopped at C there, you'd have to think and go, wait, where is it? I go backwards. That's why I write out 2 octaves. So G, B, and D, right? Okay, then A minor, same thing. Good thing I wrote out 2 octaves. If you start on A, okay, obviously it's going to be A. The next note's going to be C, and then E. And we do call those the 1, 3, 5. That's exactly right, of the triads. Now, 1, 3, 5, if you were talking about a 1, 3, 5 progression, would be a totally different thing. That would be C, E minor, G. Not a very common progression. But when we're talking about triads, those letters, yeah, they each, C is the 1 of the C chord. G is the 1 of the G chord. For example, we don't say when we're referring to the C, we say 1, 3, 5 when we're referring to the C chord. It makes sense. We don't say 5, 7, 9 when referring to the G chord. Okay? You just say, oh yeah, the 1, 3, 5 of the G chord or whatever. Everybody understands that. So you don't have to go, oh gee, what is the G? G's the 5 and B is the, so the 5, 7, 2, that'd just be too confusing. That's not, yeah, you just break everything down to time profit, whatever. Break everything down to the 1, 2, 3 thing, or 1, 3, 5 thing. All right. And then F would be F, A, C. All right. So what this does is that we can look at this now and we can look for commonality. Like you can see that there's a C note in every one of those chords except G. And a lot of times, you know, chord progressions will like be, you know, like, you know, there'll be like the 5 chord will be sus. This is 1 in the key of E, 1, 6, 5, 4. But I've got so many open ringy strings that I've got like, it's really an E5, there's no third in here. This is kind of a C minor 7, C sharp minor 7, then B sus, and an A2. And so because of the way I'm playing the voice, the way I'm voicing the chords, there's an E and a B in every one of those chords. So E and B would be safe. You know, you could, that could be your solo over that progression. But if you listen to this progression, when you get to the 5 chord, which is the 2nd chord, you have a G chord, but C would work. C, G, maybe go down to the B. Now, different notes will have, and we've talked about this before, different notes. So we have a G in the C chord and the G chord. There's a common thing there. We have an E in the C chord and the A minor chord. We have an A in the F chord and the A minor chord. um, the G chord is the only time the B shows up, and the F chord's the only time the F shows up. And you know what's interesting about that is that if you played C major pentatonic or A minor pentatonic, you wouldn't have a B or an F. Beato, sorry, I keep quoting Rick Beato, but this is something I noticed, 40, 50 years ago when Stairway to Heaven came out, that Jimmy Page landed on an F note over the F chord, right? Which is brilliant because he jumps out of the pentatonic scale. Clearly, he's playing in pentatonic number 1 in the key of. But when he gets to that 4 chord, he lands on the F to correspond with the 4 chord, and in some ways that's brilliant. But what's interesting is that, and I think because it's a lower note, it's usually better not to be too outside on the lower pitches because it tends to get muddy. But if he slid up to the E instead of down to the F, the E is actually almost a more interesting note over the F chord. The F just is the root of the F chord, so it almost sounds really inside. But what it tells you is that Jimmy Page knows music theory. And also, he was a session player, so he was probably used to kind of playing more inside than outside in a lot of ways. But the E. That E sounds really nice over all of those chords. I'm making a little accommodation for the G chord. But that E, and we've talked about this before, that E has a different relationship to each one of those chords and consequently a different emotion attached to it. So the E over the C is just the third. So it's kind of in the pocket, but the over the G is a sixth, and you're like, wow, it is a suspension. The 6 wants to go to the 5, like this, right? That's the 5-6 suspension. Oh, you're listening to Osmosis? Listening by osmosis while working on a 3D model. Nice. Are you is it CAD? You're working with CAD? But I'm just sitting on that E over the G chord. And then over the A minor, it's the 5th. So, it's also kind of inside, works. And then over the F, it's the major 7th. It's a beautiful tone. Okay? So, play this note right here. 5th fret of the 2nd string. Just play that. 4. Actually, the tempo is technically 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I put it at 120. But yep, it's the Let It Be chord progression basically. It's the first 4 chords of that. See, that's how Jimmy Page would have played over it. he would have landed on the F note on that F chord. But that E note, now if I did it, look. A little weird on the F chord, that low. I feel like it's a little bit, I mean, it's cool. I think it could work. But this octave would definitely not. It almost doesn't work on any of the chords. It's just too low. But this, and so what you can do with that is is you can do different, just with that one note, you can go, you can slide in. I'm actually working on a video, like 50 ways to play the same note on guitar. And I think I'm probably going to come up with more like 60 ways. But I'm formulating it now. But this E note, creates, at times it's inside and times it's outside. Again, it's all about this. Music is so much about tension and release. So we have, times where it sounds, oh, okay, that works. Okay, well, that's kind of weird. Okay, well, oh, that works. That's pretty. Oh, wait, I like it, but I don't know why, kind of thing. So, but when you can just play the half notes, that's boring. But if you did, imagine lyrics. Why am I playing this one note? Wouldn't the C be flat for the A minor? C flat? No. No, A minor scale is the same as the C scale, except it starts on A. Exactly, that's a lyric you can think. Now I could change the key, maybe get it less like that, but no, I'm fine with the key of C. It's a good starting place. C sharp would be the the M and A stands for minor, not major. F. No, it is Let It Be, Sam. It's the first 4 chords of the Let It Be progression. We're talking about soloing. So it's like, how do we approach this? All right. Now, again, I could just take a C scale and play C scale over it and make, diatonic scale, the notes right here. And just kind of, that's just kind of, you're not saying anything. Actually, you're saying more with this. And then you can build off of something like that. Soloing does not have to be complex. Ultimately, you have to have something to say. Anybody who solos just like flashy, kind of without any kind of melodic sense, you can be flashy and have melodic underpinnings and melodic ideas inside the flash. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're just going to be shredding scales over a chord progression, it's kind of like, why? And there may be a moment for that. Okay, so for example, if I were taking more of a rock approach to this, okay, so let's if I were to go, because right now it wasn't really any approach, but okay, so I might do something like if it was a rock song. Where you're doing little fast scale riffs kind of in between melodic ideas. That's totally fine. And that totally sounds like Neil Schon to me, right? That's kind of like what he would do a lot of times. Like, you know, he might take that kind of approach where he would play a melodic idea and then he would do some fast lick to get to the next melodic idea, and that's totally fine. But just to be shredding like nonstop. It's just, it doesn't say anything except you're very insecure. You're compensating. That's what that says to me. Hey! Oh, I don't know. You notice the Band-Aid? Nobody's asked me about... Has anybody asked me about the Band-Aid? I cut my finger. Cut it pretty bad, too. Yeah, there's definitely... You can definitely... AJ is saying, I guess there is some overthinking somewhere in there. And that's definitely a real... you know, yeah... hey, here, that's my problem with jazz. I overthink jazz. And when you know, where I want to be is in the zone. You know, you want to live in the zone, but the zone is, requires a lot of practice to get to. And I feel like in jazz, I can never get in that zone where the music's just coming out. Now, if it's a blues progression, in fact, that's something we can talk about. Different types of progression. I'll do a new text thing here. What do I want? I want text, okay. All right, now I'm just gonna say okay on this for now and go really small. Okay, so the types of progressions, okay. You know, you can have a like a vamp, okay, and that would be basically one chord. Okay, you could have a pop progression, and that's gonna, you know, be maybe two to four chords. Okay, you could have a jazz, you know, progression, or blues progression, and that's basically three chords. You know, I mean, there's substitutes and things like that, but you're basically talking about a 1-4-5 progression. And then jazz, it's like 1,000,000 chords, okay? And but jazz could be a vamp too. A vamp could be one chord, or let me go back up to vamp here, because a vamp could be a 2-chord vamp. I always joke about, and I can't wait for Beato's interview with George Benson, because I love George Benson. I mean, he was one of my biggest influences early on. Okay, so with a vamp could be like, it could be just. That would be a vamp, a common vamp, just kind of vamping on an E9 chord in that case, but a dominant 7th. Very common in soul, R&B stuff, especially from the 60s. You might have like a 2D horn section there. You know, some kind of, you can imagine horn players, you know. And that would all be like over an A7 chord. And so, and you go, well, that's got to be super easy. Actually, that's soloing over a 1-chord vamp is really hard, because you've got nothing to set up. You got none of that. You can do tension, like I could, right? I could sit on it. If I'm on A7, okay, A7, I'm playing basically fifth fret barring, and then second finger on the third string, sixth fret, and third finger on the seventh fret of the fifth string. And that's an A7 chord. You could also play it like this if you wanted. But that C natural is not in the chord. It's a C sharp. But if I play the C natural, it creates tension. That wants to go up, but you can. But that's what the beauty of music is. It's all about tension release. It's all, you know. So you can create tension, but it all has to happen within the one chord, and it's so you can't do something where you're staying on one note and the chord changes and changes the entire dynamic of that one note that you're playing, which is what we experienced with this. Where that E note has a different relationship to each chord that is played over, and that's so in some ways. Now pop progressions. Now, like I said, a vamp could be two chords. You could be like A minor to D minor or D9. And that would be kind of an A minor, even though it's a 2-5 in the key of G. You're just going back and forth between the 2-5, 2-5. You wouldn't really think in the key of G there, because that A is kind of really dominant. So you probably would be. Might think A minor blues, but then you want to accommodate that F sharp. You might get the B.B. King blues in there, or you might just play a Dorian. So, you know, you could, and again, I would try to do something melodic, not just shred a scale over a vamp. That just gets kind of boring as well. But a vamp could be one chord, it could be two chords. A pop progression, it could be two chords, or it could be up to four chords, or maybe more. It could totally be more. I think about, you know, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what a good 6-chord pop progression, but generally you're looking at the 1, 4, 5, and 6. Those are going to be like this progression is what I would consider this a pop progression by the greatest pop band of all time, basically. We'll see. I'll let you know later if I got a copyright strike for that. That would be silly, but it happens. Let's see. Tom, what did you say? I've always wanted to play Flight of the Bumblebees. Yeah, I always wanted to be able to play that too, and just you got to take it slow, and then you have to memorize it. You can't like be reading tab for that one. You're gonna have to memorize it. So just take it slow. But it's was it? Is it chromatic? I don't remember. I pull up PDF for Flight of the Bumblebees. I'm curious now. Just pull up here, see what I can get for how much they'll give me. Come on, show it to me. Show it to me. No, I don't want. Okay, hold on. What's this one? There we go. All right. Rimsky-Korsakov, of course. So yeah, it's. Oh right. It is chromatic and it's like. Oh, that's the intro. So what is it that people think of when they... That's what I think. Okay, yeah, that's what I think of when I think of Flight of the Bumblebees. Yeah, it's insanely fast. I don't even know if I can play 16th notes that fast that you would technically at tempo, especially with my pick slipping in my finger because of the Band-Aid. Yeah, world record is 600 BPM on guitar, right? Was that with a power drill though? You know, or is that for, yeah, yeah, it's just that's probably the best way to finger it. You guys get me on the weirdest sidetracks. Squirrel. And here's the crazy thing is that, check that out. Let's see what it sounds like. Actually kind of works over that progression. It's interesting when you think about when you analyze it, that over the E makes, and that's one of the tricks I say when you talk about tricks on the guitar, you know, shortcuts. There's no shortcuts, but one of the tricks I say is you look at your scale of particularly pentatonic scales, and if you have an E and a G, you can go chromatically like that. That's even a jazz song. Was that Blue Monk? Yeah, that's Blue Monk. But that's kind of what's happening. That's longer than I normally go. So normally I'll go like a minor third. But this one actually, when you go from the E down to the C, that's a major third. So that's 5 notes instead of 4 notes. Which actually works really nice if you're playing 16th notes because 1 E and 2, you land on that. So you could even turn that into. It's weird. You can go up to. So if you have the ability to record, and there are free softwares that you can download. If you have a Mac, you have GarageBand, you can probably create this chord progression and loop it. I could feasibly loop this and post it, or put. I could do that. I could put this in. I can create a quick little MP3 for it, just the piano, and put it in Discord. Okay. How about that? I don't really want to put it up on my YouTube channel because it's not going to be really good enough to, you know, people are going to be, why are you just putting these 4 chords up there? I've done it before, but I think this time it makes more sense just to kind of give you the MP3 and then you can download it and jam with it. You can send me a royalty later. Once you get to 87 plays, you can send me 9 cents or send it to Paul McCartney. I have his address. I've been to his house. So, yeah, you record in Reaper, so you could totally create this progression or do it in every key if you want to kind of work on all the keys. Okay, so and then there's the blues, which is, you know, like I said, the thing about the blues, and we've talked about it before, is that you're playing over 3 different dominant 7th chords, which technically means you're playing in 3 different keys. But generally the way people play over the blues is just to play, like if we're in A, just play A blues. But you do want to make accommodations for the chords. And so the better you get at the blues, the less you are in one key And the more you're finding licks that work over the individual 1 chord, the individual 4 chords, and the 5 chords. And then sometimes there's like going to be some kind of like chromatic thing or whatever if you get a little bit more jazzy in your blues. Okay, so blues is 3, and then jazz is often very unlimited. These are the main types of progressions that you would solo over. And jazz could be whatever. You know, we got... shoot, I know it this way. Hard with a Band-Aid on my finger. But technically, Giant Steps goes just 3 keys. It's the key of B, the key of G, and the key of E flat. So it's just, he's doing a augmented triad. So it's like you can, you know, you can go back and forth between G to A flat or E flat to B. You can start to kind of experiment just by practicing those 3 keys if you want to get good at Giant Steps, so you can find ways to get from one scale to the next key, and keep in mind that every one of them is a major third away from each other. So you can just practice going, you know, you can start on E flat, go to G, go to B, back to E flat, and so on and so forth. But so ultimately, Giant Steps is not as complex as it sounds. There are other jazz songs where you're like, whoa, what key are we in? And I think about All the Things You Are. Yeah, so what am I doing? So what's happening there is F minor to B flat minor to E flat 7 to A flat major 7 to D flat. Well, all of that's in the key. This is the 3, 2, 5. Wait, yeah, 2, 5, 1. So I said we were in D flat before, but this is actually D flat's the 4 chord. So the 1 to the 4, and then the 5 at the key of C. So it actually, All the Things You Are starts in A flat and goes to C major for a second, and then it goes same progression now in E flat. So now we are in E flat, and then we go to G. So you kind of have to keep tabs of where you are. Now you might play it. I mean, I don't know. You might play over the chords, like I was kind of trying to see the chords. Okay, now here's what we're going to do right now, and I'm trying to remember. We may have done this before, but look at the chord progression down here. Boop, over here, right, for the Beatles, the Let It Be progression. I probably should. I could have moved it to, like, what's this instrument? So if I move it to, you know, or put it like here. That's too delayed. All right. So now it's sounds less like Let It Be. Put it on a Rhodes. Let's try to find the roots of each of these chords. Okay. Let's just start there. So we're going to play the C. There's a C. There's a G. Okay? So 5th fret, 3rd string to 5th fret. Okay, 5th fret on the 4th string. I'm just playing it with my index finger. to the 7th fret of the 4th string, to the 3rd fret of the 4th string, right? Yeah, Live and Let Die is a great song. You can just play half notes. Play C. You got that? So technically, if that we were going to call this a solo, this is actually more of a bass part, okay? Because we're playing the root of each of these chords, meaning the first note of the triads. C is the root of C, G is the root of G, A is the root of A minor, and F is the root of F. It would be the most inside solo ever. Now, let's play the 3rd of each of these chords, okay? So we're going to play the E, the G, the C, and the A. And those will be also inside. Again, this would be considered, if we did the 5ths, maybe that would be the 2nd most inside possible solo you could play. But with the 3rds, now we're starting to hear, we're hearing the harmony, because if I were just to play, on bass, you might not know what chord progression could be. It doesn't make any sense, but you don't really know the harmony because you don't have the 3rd. But in the piano we have the 3rd. But in your solo, okay. Yeah, and also. That's what we start mixing it up, Sam. Sorry, those leading tones would be a nice base for moving around those tones. Yeah, like I could have gone. I could have taken that if I wanted to kind of get away maybe from the Beatles vibe. I could go G over B instead of G. Would sound like this. But I'm going to stick with the G's just because, mainly because I want our ears to hear each of the individual chords in root position. Okay, but let's play the 3rd. So the E is here. Here's an E. Here's one E. And here's a B. Okay, so I'm on the 5th fret of the 2nd string, and then I'm going to the 4th fret of the 3rd string. That right there is even kind of, and then we go to C, which was the first note when we did the roots, and then we'll go down to A. 5th fret of the 3rd string, and then 2nd fret. And back up to the E. Can you get that down, do you think? It's going to be much more interesting than just the roots. Check it out. That's something you can build on. You see that? You see what I did there? It was very simple. I just went, stayed in the key. Does sound a little bit like Canon in D. You can throw some rhythmic variation in there to make it more interesting. That was a quarter note triplet. right? But I'm still ultimately, I'm using the foundation of that melodic idea as just playing the third of each of those chords. And then wrapped around those thirds are all sorts of beautiful notes that you can access to make your melody more interesting. All right? All right, let's play the fifth of each of these chords. Okay, so now we're going to play a G. So let's keep going up higher. So we started here, we went to there, now we're going to go here. And it's actually pretty easy. This one, we could actually just do the pentatonic. Let's just do that. So I'm going to put my pinky on the G here at the, what fret? 8th fret of the 2nd string, then 5th fret of the 2nd string, and then 7th fret of the 3rd string, and then 5th fret of the 3rd string. Okay? Oh, shoot. My bad. No. It's here, then here. It's the same notes, but just in a different order. And then E, and then C. So we're going to go 8th fret of the 2nd string, 3rd fret of the 3rd string, and then 5th fret of the 2nd string, and then 5th fret of the 3rd string. Okay, there's our 5s. Play that with me. I know it's simple for some of you, but it might be hard for some of you too. Shawadi wadi. $5 is what I think I had to save up to buy that Beatle record. I don't know. What was the original retail for in 1960? Okay. Now how might I make this a little more interesting? Okay, now, I mean, I just came up with that on the fly, and it's amazing, because I'm amazing. But the thing I did there was that right away I had, right off the bat, I had a hook. The hook was kind of a pull-off, right? And I went down to the C, to the E, which is the 3rd of the C chord. So I knew that note was going to work. And then I went D, and I slid up to the E instead of pulled off to the E. And so right away I have a rhythmic hook. Ba, 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 ba. Okay, so there, when you have a hook, what a hook does is it's an idea that is easy to understand. A hook can be, like I said, a hook could be, or a hook can be a melody in a song. A hook could be a sound, but it's something that hooks you in. And so right away, I'm like, and then I did the opposite. I could have done that. But there's a thing where enough is enough. You don't want to abuse a rhythmic hook or abuse a hook of any kind. You know, you don't want to keep doing it over and over again, because then it becomes it goes from being a hook to being a drill. So that makes sense. Okay. Bow wow wow. Okay. All right. Yeah, I remember Bow Wow Wow. So I know about when you were buying records. Yep. I didn't ever buy that record. I never bought a Bow Wow Wow record. I worked at a record store when Bow Wow Wow hit the charts. We should get something like what? Teddy Boys. Yeah, well, the Beatles were Teddy Boys, were they not? Oh, who's Yanni? Janie? Wait, I missed something. Oh, Jan, yeah. Dang. Um, sorry. Uh, no, Bow Wow Wow was British, I think. Wasn't Bow Wow Wow? But yeah, I mean, now my naming my second record, I don't think I could remember that. A lot of my records I got as hand-me-downs from my sister, and I would buy them from her. Probably how I got Monkeys records. Probably how I got that Tommy Rowe Dizzy record that she threw down the staircase because I played it so much. Now, I think the reason I played Dizzy so much is because my little sister would dance to it and she would just spin until she was falling over from being dizzy. And she just cracked me up. She still cracks me up. And that was so I would play that so much, and my older sister got so mad at me. This was in I remember it was in Potomac, Maryland, because we had a split level. You know, it was like crazy, you know, basement, and then a den, and then the living room, kitchen, dining room, and then the bedrooms, and then the attic. So it was like my mom felt like she was constantly. She said, "I'll never get another split level," because the washing machine and dryer were down on the basement, and the bedrooms were on essentially the fourth floor. So she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's a split level." Oh, Carpenters. Yeah, you know, I may still have my first record, The Help. I have Help, and I doubt I bought it a second time. But I know I have a CD of it. And the CD is different. The CD, it doesn't have the score on it. It has other songs that were unreleased, that were singles. Because the Beatles would release singles and they would release albums. And then they had to release albums that had all the singles. I think Yesterday and Today was one of those, right? Or was Yesterday and Today its own record? I can't remember. But they would do things like that. It was the marketing strategy of record companies in the early 60s was very different. They stopped doing that by the end of the 60s. By the end of the 60s, in fact, the Beatles, I think, were directly responsible for this. It became very album-oriented, conceptual, not just a bunch of singles, but more of an overarching idea, like the Sgt. Pepper's, you know, would be. Maybe you could credit the Beach Boys with that, with Pet Sounds, which came out before Sgt. Pepper's. But the thing is that I think Revolver inspired Pet Sounds, which inspired Sgt. Pepper's, if I'm not mistaken. Because I think Brian Wilson was like, man, when they heard Revolver, which was pretty cutting edge for the time, and Rubber Soul was one of those was like, wait, they're going to do acoustic songs? Wait, they're not Bob Dylan. And then Bob Dylan went electric. But that didn't happen until later. But yeah, so, okay. So let's go over the three here. Let's go. I'm just going to call out root, third, and fifth. Okay, here we go. Whoops, I got to hit this first. Okay, there we go. Root. Again, C, G, C to G, to A to F. Now what I want you to do, and like I said, I'll put after the lesson's over, I'll create an MP3 of this. And it'll have low end. I'll turn off the filter on the low end. Okay? Do this, practice this, and then practice making. So this is one, or the root. I'm going to the two. Two. 1, 1, 2, 1. 1, 1, 2, 1. 1, 1, 2, 1. The weirdest is the A minor, but I like it. Okay, let's go to the thirds. We're going to go E to B to C to A. might start out real simple, just whole notes. Then maybe make them sing. Now, what are we doing here? We're playing over the progression. We're not playing in the key. See, if we're playing in the key, I would just say play C. Okay? Play in the key of C, jam in the key of C, or G, A minor pentatonic. But what I'm trying to get you to do is to kind of play over each individual chord and think of them as individual little entities. And ultimately, you can get to the point where you're going. Basically, ultimately, we've learned all those notes just by learning the root, third, and fifth of each of these chords. Okay, let's go to the fifth of each chord. So we're going to start on the G here. G for the C chord, D for the G chord, E for the A minor chord, and C for the F chord. Do is you can start to mix it up and go like root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth, almost as a mental exercise. So I'm going to play the root of the C chord, the third of the A chord, the fifth of the G chord, and then the root of the F chord, and then I'm going to play the, I'll see if I can do it. Okay, so we're on A minor F. I'll play the root, same note, and then the fifth to the root. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, that was right. The third. Wait, I got turned around. Okay, because I intentionally made it too complicated. but you get the idea where you can just kind of mix it up a little bit more. But the idea is maybe, take that fifth one. And you can take it down a notch. Or up an octave. All right, and that's one of the approaches. So we have, like I've said before in this video, but in other videos as well. You have kind of you can find the overarching key, which in pop is easier to do because you're not changing keys so fast like in blues or in jazz. Well, blues is also kind of weird that way, but jazz is can be particularly complex. But with pop progression, you're generally going to be in the same key. So you don't have to really worry about accommodating. You might have occasionally have that minor 4. So you might do something. So you might have to accommodate that or something like that. But what we want to do is, and with pop, you can definitely take it several approaches, and one could be just to be playing in the key. Or you could, you could play C major in that. Or you could play C major pentatonic, or A minor pentatonic, same notes, okay? And you can play over the chords, which is kind of what we're learning how to do right now. I'm showing you the chords. And if you want, you can do this. You can go root fifth. So check this out. basically roots and fifths, or fifths and roots over each chord. So that's the next level. You know, you try to play two notes, two chord tones, and then you can play the root and the third, or the third and the fifth, or you can play, and ultimately you can maybe try to get the whole triad in there. Almost sounds like a bass line. I'm playing them in order though. But you don't have to do that. I got turned around. I'm not concentrating. But you could play, you know. You don't have to play the triads in order 1 3 5 1 3 5 1 3 5. You can totally mix it up. Maybe create a pattern of just the triads in order 1 3 5 3 or something like that, and get that down, and then come up with a variation on it. And then what you want to do with that information is you want to maybe take then a more melodic approach. Like for example, right away, I play a C triad, which you know is going to work over a C chord. But when I get to that G chord, I could go to G and just do just a G triad also. But melodically, you got that C to B that just works so well. And then from there, you can do your G triad. And then here we end up on the fifth of the A minor. Things start to reveal themselves as being more interesting than just pure triads or just roots and fifths or whatever. You can start to have some fun with it. And then you've got all the passing tones, which is the rest of the scale, you know. And one thing you can do too, if you want to do another exercise, is we could do a 1 2 3 5 on every chord. So check that out. This would sound like this. So I got turned around at one point, but so what I'm doing, I'm going C, D, E, G. And you could even go, and A minor might be, or, it's a pretty simple little pentatonic shape, but that second is always going to work. Every one of those chords has a 2 in it. And so the C chord, the 2 is D. The G chord, the 2 is A, just the next note up. The A chord is beautiful, it's the B note. And then in F, it's the G note. So you can always add the 2. And so, so that's what, I only have 6. My wife doesn't have any guitars. Or all of my guitars are hers, might as well be hers. All right. Has your spouse ever bought you a guitar? Wow, it's already 10:30. That's crazy. All right, so we kind of talked about soloing. We're going to keep talking about this. Like I said, I can create that. You want me to put it on piano? I'll put it on piano. Like I said, I don't think we're going to get a copyright. Well, we'll see. do 2 bars of. You're not kidding. Okay, so move it to click, and then I'm gonna lower the. All right, so how long do we go? I can put a last chord on here. I'll put a button on here. Oh. Drums. Let it ring out like a day in the life. Okay, so how long was this? Let me go. Let's see, from 22 minutes to 27. Yeah, so 5 minutes, that's plenty of time, right? I mean, you can just hit play again. But you can practice all this stuff. So here's what it's going to 2, 3, 4. Okay, I can even turn down this. All right, let me bounce this real quick. I'm just going to call it CGAMF prog. And then I'm going to put this in, go to the desktop. I've got a folder there for YouTube stuff. Okay, bounce. Yeah, okay. And then I'm going to go right now to Discord. So go to that Discord link if you want to have access to this. And it'll be under lessons and PDFs. Discord, where are you? There you are. Brum, 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 brum. Your own stuff. Let's see, where's my... Yeah, I don't know. Surely it won't be a problem. This won't be that long. Desktop, where are you? Here we are. Oh, it's only 1 megabyte. Oh, it's 3 minutes. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to make it longer. What was my math problem here? 122.39. I don't understand. That should be 5 minutes. I don't get it. Okay, or maybe I clicked on it too soon. I don't know. Let me try it. Let me make it longer. I want it to be, I want you not to have to, I want you to get in a zone. That's kind of the reason why I make jam tracks so long, because it does take a minute to get in the zone. Okay, so 122, okay, 122.38. This should be 10 minutes long in my calculations, but we'll see. Let me bounce and try again. All right, yep, all right. Yeah, it's so funny. I was working on some music for a production company, and they give me directions a lot of times of what they need more of and what they let's see, where am I? I need this. Okay, but other times I can just do whatever I want. I send it, and maybe they'll use it, maybe they won't, but. This week I was doing more like songs, because a lot of times I'm creating more bed kind of sonic things. But this one, I'm trying to do more that are like, they kind of play out like songs. And hey, Scott Johnson, what's going on? I know it's Scott Johnson from Indiana. You're not in Indiana, are you? Pretty common name, that. Common people, what's going on? Good to see you. Oh, Hoffner Shorty. I will never forgive her. And my wife, let's see, she brought me a American Standard Telecaster. And okay, let's see how long this. Well, now what is it? Is it not done? Oh, it's not done. That's part of. I think I clicked on it too soon. Is maybe the problem before. Okay, now it says funny. It's exactly 10 minutes. Let's see, 12 megabytes. That's what happened. I think I clicked on it too soon. All right, so let me see if it'll load this. If it's too big, I don't know. Try. Is it uploading? No. Let's see if this works. Okay. Well, looks like it. You can even play it inside. You don't even need to download it if you don't want to. You can play it um, inside of Discord if you want. You can just open up Discord and hit the play button. But it's just that stupid progression over and over and over again. You're gonna try. If you have anybody else in the room, they're gonna start throwing stuff at you. So be careful. Be careful. Let's see what else is going on. All right. All right. So yeah. Martin made electrics, but nobody ever bought them. When I worked at that guitar store in Indiana at the Castleton Mall that was like consigned space and a Sears, we had a Martin electric. They were a Martin dealer, they were a Gibson dealer, and they were a Fender dealer. So we had all of the major brands. This was long before Taylor was even a thing. I have a friend, a student of mine, that has the first Taylor ever made. Bob Taylor. It was the Great American Guitar Company, I think, and he made the first thing he made was a 12 string, and my friend has it. It's like serial number 001 or something. And Bob has tried to buy it from him, but my friend won't sell it. So yeah, I have a feeling Bob can't afford it because at some point somebody's gonna want to buy it. That's going to pay a premium for it that Bob isn't willing to pay. So Bob was going to give him like, I'll make you a custom 12 string and I'll give you X amount of dollars or something. But that was it was funny because that was his guitar that he brought to guitar lessons. Yeah, that's what earphones are for. Exactly. So I would start to take that approach of, you can even do a screen grab of this lesson if you want to have those notes, but I would write them out anyway. I'd write them out now, maybe write them out 10 times, just so you can memorize the notes in a C chord, a G chord, A minor chord, and F chord. And keep in mind, if we change the progression to be like we could do a 1, 5 to 2 chord. That's a beautiful chord progression. I mean, I hear a lot of melodies over that too. So instead of playing, hey Brad, what's going on? You're on a plane right now. Hope you're wearing headphones so I'm not bugging your neighbors. Oh man, where are you headed off to? We had lunch last week. I cut my finger, Brad. You see that? Look. Okay, the story behind the cut finger. Okay, story time. This is not really a story. It's more just a stupid thing. So Alex is refurbing the whole apartment. So he and his fiance, they're refurbing Alex's apartment. And Alex is working on the bathroom, and his friend that was roommate was using that bathroom. He used the other bathroom, and he had liquid nail a 2x4 to mount some stuff on. So he put liquid nail down and so on the countertop. So the countertop was ruined anyway, so he was going to take it out. He wanted to get this um, board off, and he was prying it with a crowbar, and he cracked the sink, the porcelain sink. And he showed it to me what had happened, and I was like, oh well, it's not that bad. You could, and I put my finger on the crack and went, you could put some a caulk in here, and I did this, and I had no idea it was as sharp as it was. It was like a knife. It wasn't a crack like this. It was a crack like this, like the top came off, and it was just like this knife, and it was deep. It was like dark red blood was coming out. It didn't hurt, which was weird. It was like never really hurt, but ouch. Are my hands insured? No, they are not. If I lost my hands, I would just retire. I suppose I could play keyboard still with my nose, but I would just have to say, okay, I'm done. So, coming home from Oregon. Oh, were you up seeing Steve? Sorry, personal conversation. um, so, yeah, so it's fine. The problem with the liquid skin thing is it's kind of got a skin flap where the cut was. And so that keeps catching on things. If I put my hand in my pocket, or if I pick up something or touch something, it moves, and that's when it hurts a little bit, when you're kind of reopening the wound a little bit. So I'm just keeping a Band-Aid on it for now until that's a little bit more sealed. The liquid skin works okay, but eventually it wears off, and then I start snagging on things. So right now, like, the liquid skin's better for playing. So when I was playing at church this weekend, I had to take the Band-Aid off and use liquid skin because it's a little hard to hold a pick. Like, the pick wants to fall out of my hand because it's just not the same. It doesn't hurt, though, thankfully. And it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I tend to be very cautious with my hands. I read a story about a guy that was on the roof, and he climbed down, and he was coming down, and he caught his ring on a nail on the gutter and pulled his finger off because he let go, and like his hand was stuck. Like that. And I have another friend who... Oh, I shouldn't say things like, I shouldn't tell you these stories, but I had another friend who was playing flag football, and he was reaching for someone's flag, and he got his finger caught in his belt loop instead. So I'm learning all these things not to do. Not to do. I will take off my ring if I'm going to work with tools, especially if I'm going to work with a slide. But I don't work with like saws, like, like a wood saw, sure. But even then, I'm really cautious about where that thing's going to go, and where my hand is in relation and stuff like that. I remember one time I was playing classical guitar at this little restaurant in Pasadena during lunch. I'm playing during lunch. And a guy comes in, sits in the bar right in front of me. He's sitting at the bar. I'm playing in the bar, but the music's piped over the whole restaurant. And he's just sitting there by himself, and he's got his hand is literally bandaged like this, just one big Band-Aid. And then about 10 minutes later, his buddy comes in, and he's like, man, what happened to your hand? And he goes, oh, I sawed off all my fingers on a table saw. And psychologically, I'm hearing this story, and all of a sudden, my fingers stopped working. I started getting rigor mortis. It was like, oh my God, I can't, I'm like thinking about it, and I'm trying to play. It was brutal. Yes. Oh my gosh, you're kidding. Ollie, that's an amazing story. Your dad lost his pinky at the first joint, just here, holding a sailboat mast steady when trailering. Oh, when trailering. Okay. And then he had an inordinate amount of fun putting putting it in his nose and freaking people out, thinking it was the whole pinky was in there. I had a neighbor that when he was a kid, lost a pinky in a tractor. No, he lost his index finger on a tractor gear. How tractors back in the old. I mean, this guy passed away a few years ago. He's 80 something. Tractors, the engine would be wide open, and you could literally. He just put his finger in there and it got caught in a gear. But let's not talk about losing fingers. Oof, brutal. I think about Django Reinhardt, who basically only had two fingers, and he was already a pretty good player when that happened, and yet he turned into become. He was like literally one of the best players guitar players of all time, and inspired so many players in so many different genres. And I love the gypsy jazz, which is what he and Stefan Grappelli kind of created. Hey Tom, what's going on? You lost a third of my index finger, making it much harder to play guitar now. Yep. Oh, from sepsis. Ugh, 2 years ago. Yeah, you almost have to kind of reinvent how you play. If it's your left index finger, yeah, that would definitely affect bar chords. It would affect a million things. So yeah, I can't imagine. Remind me not to get sepsis. Yeah, it's I mean, it would be a bummer. I would maybe relearn. At my age, it might be difficult. I've had a friend who was left-handed architect, and he had to have his left arm cut off because of cancer. He had a very aggressive cancer in his left hand, and they had to cut it off right here. And he was, did all his drawing with his left hand, but he was 30, maybe 32 or something, maybe younger than that. And he relearned. And I mean, they lived in the building that we managed in Pasadena. And I would get checks every month from everybody because I was the manager. I didn't own the building. I just was the on-site manager. And his checks were always so meticulous. Like, he had the neatest handwriting of anybody. And within a month, he was writing with his right hand. He even had a blog for a while called What's Right is Left. I don't know if it's still up. What's Right is Left. No. No, nope, nothing. So he must have taken it down. So skin glue called Dermabond at my old hospital job. I think it's available for purchase now. Yeah. Oh wow, 2 weeks average. That's pretty good. Oh, Tom's bet is you're probably lurking, but yeah, life goes on. Yeah. You said it happened 2 years ago or 2 months ago. I missed that part. I mean, 2 years ago. Okay. So you've had some time to kind of see if you can figure it out. Losing the top. You said the top third of that wouldn't be bad enough to relearn how to play right-handed. That would be too hard. I think that would be too much of a challenge. I think revoicing, learning to play some things differently. If you can play with the tip of your first finger, you could still solo. Yeah, I have, that neighbor of mine who lost his first finger took banjo lessons from me. So I had to voice all his banjo with these three fingers. But it actually made some sense because banjo really ultimately only is a 4-string instrument. The 5th string you don't ever really fret. You just keep banging away at it. That's why it's so annoying. So you could easily play banjo with 3 fingers, and he did. He wasn't great at it, but he had a really good book that he picked up along the way, and I ended up making a Xerox copy of it because it was such a great book, but it was pretty much handmade book. I don't know that I've ever seen this book anywhere else. And the main thing with banjo is really the right hand. Banjo is one of those things where it's like you see these 7-year-old kids ripping on it. But banjo is, and I have my fretless banjo. Where is that? So I have my nylon fretless banjo. You're like, what the heck is that? But see, I have my Band-Aid on it, but there's forward rolls and there's backward rolls and then there's forward and backward rolls and stuff. And so that's um, I don't really have a lot of rolls down, but that's kind of the thing you work on with banjo is just this whole like. You just get those down. You just kind of get those, and then you try to get them out. So I don't have this first finger doesn't really pluck really good right now with a Band-Aid on it. I keep telling myself I'm gonna work on my banjo chops, and then it just kind of takes a back seat. My picking hand is pretty fast with guitar, but banjo it's like, you know, it takes 10-15 minutes for your hand to kind of get readjusted to the. And you generally just play with the thumb and two fingers. I don't think most banjo players play with their ring. In fact, a lot of them will have their pinky on there. And then there's frailing, which is kind of strumming with your fingers and your thumb, plucking with your thumb and then fingers. And that one, I will kind of get it down for, like, I can play it for like a few minutes, and then I don't do it again for 6 months, and I pick it up and I can't remember how to do it. Boom diddy bum diddy bum diddy boom is kind of the boom boom diddy 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 boom. That's kind of the nomenclature for frailing, or claw hammer they also call it. Let's see. Wow, that's crazy. Sounds like Duke Hazard. Yeah. That's a cool instrument, though. I really like that fretless nylon string banjo. You're like, what the heck? But there's a guy on Instagram that I follow called Buffalo Kin, and he plays. He's a really good banjo player, and he's a good singer. Kin, K-I-N, Buffalo Kin, and look him up. It's a pretty cool follow. He does these really, cool things. I mean, and that's the first time I ever saw he had like a 4-string and a 5-string fretless nylon string banjos. I'm like, what the heck? And I started Googling and I realized Gold Tone made them. I didn't realize that. And originally, banjos were fretless, and originally they were nylon strings. I'm like, wow, that's cool. So I didn't know that. Dang. Oh my gosh, Tom Bent, that's crazy. Oof. Oh, Sam Stevens. The soundtrack played the banjo the entire movie. There's only one scene dueling banjos, but the soundtrack. Oh, there's banjo throughout the movie. Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in so long. I probably saw it on TV. I doubt I went to see it in a theater, because when that movie came out, I don't think I was old enough to see it, because it was pretty dark. It's a pretty dark film. Um, let's see. Yes, if you play ukulele, yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad it's good therapy. All right. Well, listen. For those just tuning in, I know we're talking about losing hands. Awful. But listen to Django Reinhardt and be encouraged. Django only had two fingers, and now he did have the index and middle, but and he died in the 50s, so I think that's how you spell it. He lost his. He didn't lose his third and fourth finger. What happened was they fused together in a fire. He 18 years old, and he got married, and his wife was. And keep in mind, he's a gypsy, so he lives in a caravan. And his trailer, his wife, she sold cellophane flowers, so they were having their wedding night in the trailer with all the cellophane flowers, and no doubt some candles, candlelight, because it's their wedding night. And cellophane goes up like a Roman candle. And so cellophane, so that's what, I had a question asking for advice on what intermediate guitar players should focus on. Okay, that's a good question. Wow, I missed that one. Where was that? Okay, thank you, Holly. And Ananya, I'm not even going to try to say that. I'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, so Django, Django was, he was burned. His whole left side of his body was burned. He was in the hospital, I think, for 6 months. And these two fingers were fused together, and he couldn't use them anymore. So he had to relearn guitar just playing the two fingers. And back then, the common instrument was banjo. It wasn't 5-string banjo. It was more like a tenor banjo. But a lot of the groups in the 20s, the guitar player, it was a banjo player. And the reason was because banjo cuts through so much better than like an archtop guitar or steel string guitar, like a Martin guitar. When you're playing with like horns and stuff like that, it's just not going to cut through. But a banjo really cut through. So he played a lot of banjo, but he could solo on it as well. So, but then he transitioned into guitar, and then that's where everybody transitioned to guitar. So, okay. So I don't know if Ananya is still there, and the definition of intermediate is different with everybody. Where did that question come in? Boy, I did not see that. Oh. Yes, Tony Iommi had a half a finger. That's right. Yep. I always forget about that. Great player, too. But he would definitely accommodate it. And he had a thing that he put on, right, that was like a fingertip. Because it was on his left hand. All right. Well, I'm not seeing her question, but I trust you that it was there. What can I do with this? Can I? No, I don't want to change anything there. So, what advice do you have for intermittent? What they should focus on? Yeah, that's a good question. Everybody depends. It depends where you are. What intermediate means to you, because it may not mean the same thing to me as it does to you. Like for me, I'm intermediate with this sweater. This shirt looks all backwards. Okay. Because I'm intermediate on a lot of instruments and a lot of different styles, and so that means something different on every instrument and on every style. What I'm working on, and so it just depends. But if you can play some songs and you can kind of get up and maybe perform, if you're at that place but you want to take it up higher, that's one level. If you're not at that place, that's the place you might want to try to get, where you can play with others. Whether it's just like in a jam session with a group of people or one other person, or actually get to the point where you're accompanying yourself or another person in a coffee shop or something like that. So you can, because one of the things that gets you better faster is to have, for lack of a better word, deadlines. expectations. You've got a gig coming up in a month, and you only know 10 songs, and you need to know 20 songs or whatever. Or you're just not used to playing in front of people, so you're really nervous, and you want to make sure. One of the ways to calm nerves is to make sure whatever you're going to play, to know it inside and out. Just know it really well. So that's kind of one of the things I would suggest is to try to. It's less about being intermediate, and about being at levels, and more about motivation to take you to the next level. Like, sometimes getting to that next level is really hard unless you've got something that's scaring you into it. I'm pretty good at being self-motivated. I'm pretty much self-taught. I mean, I learned a lot from my teachers, but I stopped taking lessons when I was 17, when I started teaching. And then I took some classical guitar lessons at 18 and 19. But then I taught myself a huge classical guitar repertoire. And the way I did that was to perform it in front of people. I told you that story about when I was sitting in that restaurant playing, and the guy came in with the hand bandaged up. That was at a gig that I basically took because I wanted to work on my classical guitar playing. And so I would bring these books in with music that I couldn't play at tempo, but nobody knew the music, so it didn't matter that I was playing it at 1/4 the speed and sight reading it. And then every day I would play that piece in my set, among others, and then I would play stuff that I knew really well, but I would play these pieces that were complex in front of people. That was the reason I did it, was I wanted to deal with my nerves by playing in front of people, and also I wanted to add to my classical guitar repertoire. So what I did was I played it at 1/4 tempo. Maybe every day for a week I did that piece at 1/4, and then the next week I'm playing it about half tempo, and then I'm playing about 3/4 tempo. Maybe by a month later I'm playing that piece at full tempo. There were some pieces I doubt I ever got to full tempo. I remember doing Bach Chaconne, and it's 11 pages of just black notes, and it's in D minor. It's beautiful by itself at any tempo, because it's Bach, and all those melodies and counter melodies and all the stuff that's going on in the piece are phenomenal. But I don't think I could play front to back. I could play all 11 pages. And the great thing is it would probably, at slow tempo, it could take me an entire hour. I could go from, when I got there to when I'm taking my first break on one piece. And to most people, if I'm playing it at such a slow tempo, it sounds like I'm noodling. Well, so that's one thing to kind of get to where you are. Now, if you can play a lot of songs, but you can't improvise, maybe work on soloing. But again, soloing doesn't make any sense if you're just by yourself. If you're just playing by yourself. The other thing you could do is if you're just playing acoustic guitar, and you can play some songs like strum along songs or whatever, maybe start learning finger picking. And then if you can already do that, maybe start to learn some finger picking songs that are standalone songs that don't require vocals, and you can get some of those down. Or you can write your own, or you can experiment with. I mean, there's so many things to trigger, because I understand, like, you hit this ceiling in your playing. Well, one thing you can do is you can go, okay, let me tune Dadgad. If you have a second guitar, maybe take a second guitar and tune it Dadgad, D-A-D-G-A-D, and noodle around with that, and you find all sorts of cool things, and you go, oh wow, and you start writing. Not even trying to, you just start writing, because you don't know the scale, you don't know the tuning, you're not doing anything you're familiar with, and you're going to hit a lot of bad notes, and you're going to go, well, that didn't work. And so that's, changing the tuning of a guitar could be something that can really get you through maybe what I call ruts. And we talked about ruts a while back, but not that long ago, just a couple months ago. And like with me, what I tend to do to kind of learn something new, I will, if I'm working on some music for TV, I will maybe try to tackle a genre that I'm not really good at, maybe gypsy jazz, and I'll write a song in the gypsy jazz style, and then write a solo that's hard to play, and then play it, and work it up and play it, and at the same time, I'm practicing, I'm creating content for work. And that's kind of one of my jobs, is to create content. So that's something you can do too if you if you just try to find those areas where you're not the strongest at. I used to have kind of try to do a self-assessment. It was never it was not scientific at all, but I would go, okay, my rock playing is up here, my jazz playing's down here, my country playing's down here, my bluegrass playing is down here. So I need to work on my bluegrass playing. I'm going to work on the thing I do best, rock, and then I'm going to work on the thing I do worst. And then pretty soon the thing that you do worst replaces something else, or it becomes not in last place anymore. So then you're constantly working on the bottom stuff. If you can kind of divide your genres up that way, I don't know if it's that easy to do. I have too many genres that now, with all the Middle Eastern instruments and then the Asian instruments and the instruments from all over the world, the Latin instruments and things like that, it's totally changed how I work and learn things. But anything that has frets, I can pretty much get up to speed on and play it if we're looking for a specific sound. So anyway, so you're mainly self-taught too, yeah. Time Profit is mainly self-taught. So anyway, hopefully that helps. I did, like, if you go back a few videos, you can see one live streams. You can see where I did, I think, talking about ruts, and I may talk about that some more in the future. I probably talk about it almost every week in some way, shape, or form. But learning how to solo is a fun thing, and that's kind of what we were doing today. So if something you can't do, that's what you work on, is something that maybe you can't do. If it's something like where you're getting pretty good at finger picking, but you're not very fast, well, that might be something where and here's what I would do. You can take a song and just take a bar of that song or 4 bars of that song and turn it into an exercise. Loop it and just play it over and over again, but mess around with the metronome. Let's say the song is at 120. The problem with that, though, if the song is at 120 and you're at the edge of your ability at 120, you get in front of people to play that and you're going to mess up. You need to be able to play that 120 song maybe at 140 or 150 or 160. And that way, when you play it at 120, you can kind of rest in it. You can be relaxed when you play it. Like Dust in the Wind or something like that, Stairway to Heaven, or something that's a finger picking song, something like that. Strumming would be the same thing. If you're having a hard time doing the faster strum songs, take those songs and bump up the tempos so that when you get to the gig, you're actually playing it slower. Now, the downside of that is you might tend to rush, and that's not good if you're playing with other people. It's like, hey, relax, Tom, and I've been in that boat. So, all right. Yeah, thanks for the likes. Thanks for watching. Where we at? Well, we're at, right now, 30 people watching right now. Our peak was 34, it looks like. So, all right, I will see you next week. We're going to keep talking about soloing, and maybe we're going to, come up with solos. Maybe you can post your solos. You can start writing solos and post. And here's the other thing. I'll talk about this probably more. You can kind of break solos into 2 camps. And if I ever talk to Larry Carlton, I will ask him this question. Did you improvise the solo on Kid Charlemagne, or did you write that solo? Because it's too perfect. There are times where, if I could ask John Coltrane, if the first chorus through Giant Steps is perfect, and I've transcribed it and I look at it and I go, every note's perfect. And then the rest of the solo is kind of like noodling and quoting the first chorus and sitting on notes, and it's just not the same. And I'm like, okay, he totally wrote that first chorus. He memorized that solo or wrote it out. And I want to know that about. Now, I've done in the studio, I do solos. Like, for example, the solo I did on that Taylor Swift Justin Bieber song. We kind of wrote the solo as I went. So, like, for example, a lot of times what happens in the studio when I'm and Justin Bieber was sitting there, and Kook, the producer, was sitting there, and I'm playing guitar, and we start out, here's the solo, 3, 4, 1, whatever the solo was, and I'm doing the solo, and then I kind of make a mistake. Okay, well, we can punch in, or he can play it for me and I can relearn, because, I like that, but I didn't like this. Okay, let me replay that and then come in there. And a lot of times when I do solos, like on records, the final solo you hear is one take. But it was, oh, I like that. Okay, now let's get the next 2 bars and the next 4 bars. Okay, now we got that. Okay, now let me play those 8 bars. Okay, now what about the next 4 bars? Oh, let's go here and do this or whatever. And between Justin kind of singing melody ideas and Kook singing melody ideas and me playing melody ideas, we kind of came up with that solo. That it's not the I'm not a fan of putting solos in pop songs, but you can check it out. It's if you enter Bieber Swift Cannonball, it got leaked a few months ago. Technically, I guess I was one of the writers on it too, but it never got released, and it's been leaked. So you can check it out and you can hear that solo. And I think somewhere there definitely I posted on maybe on Discord the pictures of me and Justin. But that was the day we met actually. But I've known him now since then. That was, gosh, what was that? 2011 or I don't know. Because he's about to turn 30, and I think he was 16 or 17 there. He looks like he's 12. He turns 30 on March 1st. Isn't that crazy? Justin Bieber's going to be 30 years old. Does that make you feel old? Oh, man. So, okay. But I saw him last year. I saw him a couple months ago, but just at a show. But I haven't worked with him in a couple of years. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Yeah, it happens. Well, Justin Timberlake's probably 40 or older. How old is Justin Timberlake? Born in 81, so yeah, he's 42, 43. Born in January of 81, so he's 43 now. That's crazy. Born in Memphis. Tennessee is one of those weird states. It's like we there are not many states that most Americans could name 4 cities in. But you got Nashville, Memphis, Knoxville, and Chattanooga. And most people know those cities. I mean, not most people haven't been to those cities, but most people would go, name a town in Tennessee, and they could probably come up with 4. But I don't think you could do that in most states. Texas, you could, because you got Dallas. Well, even Texas. Well, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. And those are the 4 biggest towns. But those are big cities in a big state. Tennessee is not that big of a state. Ohio. Can you name 4 cities in Ohio? I mean, I can name a lot of cities in Ohio, but my point is, like, Bean Station. Is that in Missouri? No. Oh, nice. Um, okay. So Bernth, I'll look him up. Wouldn't be bad to have. I can always use more exercises. Um, he's got a lot of followers. All right, I followed. He's got one more subscriber. He's got 1,000,001. I'm not quite at 130. It's like really slowing down right now. When I click on my analytics, I mean, right now I've got high viewership because we're live, but I've been sitting at like 129,588 for a while. So I don't know if they're going through and getting rid of subscribers that aren't. Yeah, about 500 subscribers in the last month, and that's down. I had a little boost a couple months ago for some reason. It went up. Christmas always goes up because kids are home or whatever. And I also tend to, sometimes when I post a new video, let's see, my new video, which if you haven't seen, it's already at 700, which isn't bad. I mean, I would love to get, but let's see, I lost a subscriber from that video. Isn't that interesting? A net loss. I lost one, and I lost 2, and then I gained 1. So people when you post a video, if it's kind of like, oh yeah, I forgot about that guy. Yeah, I'm not going to follow him anymore. I get that because I'll kind of go. I'll do that too. Let's see if the party stopping chords resulted in any new subscribers. I gained 6 subscribers on that one. But in the last 48 hours, I've only had 6 views of that video. Now interesting, the guitar mute in the last, it's dropping off though. In the last 48 hours, I've had 240 views. I haven't really promoted it much. I should probably promote it on a couple sites. Anyway, okay, so that's it. I will see you all later next Monday if possible. I'm planning on it, so you can plan on it. Bruce will hopefully be back. He's on the road, I guess, or hopefully he's well. Somebody shoot him a text to make sure he's okay. Yeah, and I'll check out this Burnt guy. Always looking for ways to kind of speed up, especially the heavy metal stuff. Not so much soloing. I don't really need to solo any faster. That's not something that actually is totally beneficial. What I need to kind of work on a little bit is that chunka fast stuff, and I need to find the right tone and maybe the right guitar. I've been at a 7-string, which I actually really like the way the pickups sound on that thing. I only spent like $450 on it, so wasn't super expensive, but it's been very useful. And but the pickups on it are designed for that kind of, so it kind of sounds really good in that context. And what I want to hear is what I want to work on is speed, but definition. So it's a combination of, I want to hear the and I probably should just create some exercises that I could turn into content. Like, for example, let's see. None of my lead sounds here are very tight, but let's try this one. Let's see what this sounds like. See, I would get rid of... Yeah, I know I'm too loud. Let's see. Also, there's no bottom end because... But I might do something. See, here's where it gets interesting, because if I go to a triplet... You can't do one beat of triplets, or else you'll end up with down, 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 down. So down. Then you're all upstarts. Down, 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 down. Ah, shoot. 1. So you have to do not 1 beat of triplets, but 2 beats of triplets. So 1 and 2 and... There it is. That way you always end up on a downbeat. And then you could add to that, like every other time, do 16th notes. So Now you could also play a triplet like, let's see. You could do down, up, down, down. So yeah, I'll probably, if I really want to get good at that, because and that's the thing, I'll probably create a series. In fact, I started it, but I didn't. I got sidetracked with requests from the production company. What did I call it? Because I started doing it. Let me look it up here. I call it Big Rock. No, heavy work, I think is what I called it. So I don't think I never actually finished a song yet. Because a lot of time, like I said, when I'm writing, I will start kind of my own ideas of what I want to work on, and then they'll send something like, hey, we need some stuff like this. It's like, oop, okay, that's what you prioritize. So, okay. Anyway, I will talk to you later and see you next Monday. God bless you all. And I'll check out that burnt stuff. Okay? Take care. Bye bye.